Welcome, welcome boys. Okay, in this video we are going to be refurbishing the headlight lenses on my '02 Crown Vic. These are the original headlights that came with the car. They're very yellowed and I can't see through them. So I actually slapped a more clear set of junkyard ones I found on there, and they've been doing fine for now, but I think we can do better with these. So we're going to apply some sandpaper to them and kind of polish them up and get that yellow crap off. But first things first, before we do that, we're actually going to take some brake fluid and put that on there first. So the brake fluid should kind of eat some of that yellow crap off of there, and then once we do that and wipe them a little, we'll go ahead and use all this sandpaper, starting with a very coarse sandpaper and then moving our way up progressively until I get to a very fine sandpaper, and then that'll hopefully make the headlight lenses very clear, very transparent, and like new. So let's go ahead and dive in, shall we? And we are first going to start with a 60 grit sandpaper, and we are going to use a machine in order to get her done. Now at first I started having a problem with those stupid nipples that you see poking out on the front of that headlight that I'm guessing were there from when they do the injection molding on this plastic. And so what I ended up doing off camera, after I become quite annoyed by these things interfering, I just go ahead and aggressively sand them down and then get rid of them. Now moving up to a 220 grit sandpaper, and I am using power tool again to just kind of scuff it up pretty good, as evenly as possible. And then once we get that done and taken care of, move on to a 500 grit. Now we're at 500 grit sandpaper. We're going to do that by hand. I start off at first with it being a little on the dry side, and I'm like, you know what am I doing? I'm like, this is wet, dry sandpaper. Let me get some lubrication on this and we'll be able to get through it a little bit easier. And now we're going to be in business. We'll be able to do this much more smoothly, much more quickly and efficiently. And then plus you'll be able to scrape a bunch of that plastic crap off, and you'll actually be able to kind of see beyond that into the headlight. So like the more clear it gets, then the smoother it's getting underneath, and pretty soon you'll be able to actually see through the headlight. One thing that's not apparent at the moment is I'm concentrating a lot on the middle of the headlight and not so much on the edges where the turn signal is and the far right edge where you guys are to that headlight. And that becomes apparent once I finally get all the way through the process and to the end. I see that it's still slightly hazy on both left and right outside edges on both lenses. So at the end of the video you'll see that, but I do plan on going back and touching that up and then making it 100% legit. But just be aware of that while you're doing this. Sand evenly and concentrate on the outside edges, both sides, both lenses, and that way you won't have that problem like I did and have to redo it. And now we have moved up to 1000 grit sandpaper, still wet dry, so we're gonna get her done. So as you can see, since I did sand those nipples off earlier with the machine at the 60 grit, it makes just doing this way easier. You're not going to be able to do this at all, and it's going to look like crap if you have those nibbles on there, so just be aware of that. And now we're up to 1200 grit sandpaper. So, rinse and repeat as before. Wet, dry, get her done. Coming back with our final bit of wet sandpaper now. This is the 2000 grit. Doing the same as before, wetting it, and you're going to notice that it's going to like stick a lot to the headlight now. As you're trying to sand it, it's actually sticking to it because it's the headlight itself now is so fine, so smooth, along with that sandpaper, that it's like it's sticking to it. Not taking off as much material as what the other coarser grits are. But nevertheless, it's doing something. It is taking it off, smoothing it out, so you got to do it. 2000 grit. And in case you haven't, in case I didn't mention, or you want to always keep going just from left to right. You don't want to, I mean, you can get by with maybe a little bit of swirling, but you don't want to make a habit of swirling it or making an X or vertical. You just go from left to right, left and right, back and forth, but make sure you pay attention to the very edges like I mentioned before, and that's important to do with the coarser grit. And this is the final stage when it comes to sanding anything. You want to call this sanding, this is more polishing, but it is the 3000 grit. So it's dry, you just go with 3000 grit, left to right as before, and this is essentially polishing it. So it's going to more or less take all the scratches out. But you'll see after we get done doing this, we do actually have polishing compound and rubbing compound, which is what we'll be using after we buff this clean with this polisher at 3000 grit. Which is what this is right now. We are using the Meguiar's. We're going to do first the rubbing compound, then the polishing compound. We're going to put that on our little buffing wheel here, our machine, and then use that. So I found out it does help if you have another set of hands to kind of hold the headlight in place while you are rubbing compound and then later polishing compounding it with this machine, because you just can't apply enough pressure by yourself. So I had to enlist another set of hands to hold this thing still so I can polish it up. And this will be the final bit, the Meguiar's polishing compound. Last step, I'm going to do the same thing, put it on that machine, and polish these lenses till they're as smooth as they can possibly be. Alright boys, and there she is, more or less mint. So I didn't get as good during on the edge here, so you can see it's still a wee bit hazy, and I got kind of some deep scratches from, I think maybe the 80 grit. I didn't quite go over enough on the edges. Same with this side, see that. Same with that corner, and then that very edge, which I guess is fine because this is mostly, you know, the turn signal area, so I'm not too bent out of shape about that. I was saying this is only on the edge, but the rest of it's mint. So I think now I could just wax it, but I'm thinking it might be better to get some like ceramic coat. Just kind of ceramic coat over that, and then that should seal them in, and then they'll be legit. But I mean, just to show you, so this, you remember what they did look like. What they now look like, and that's compared to what the current ones look like. So these old crappers are now in better shape than these. So these will be coming out once I ceramic coat these boys. And we'll just slap them in, call it a boom done. We'll have its original headlights back. I can do the same thing to these. And I'll just have another mint pair sitting on the shelf just in case. So alrighty boys, that's how we clean our and restore our factory P71 headlights back to mint. Thanks for watching, boys. Peace. And for a little bit of bonus content, we went ahead and redid these, and now the edges turned up much better. And while I was at it, I went ahead and did the ones that were in the car too. So these are the ones you saw earlier in the video that I've been working on after doing a round 2. So our edges look much better now. And these were the ones, the junkyard ones that were in the car that you just saw. So I think we'll go ahead and put the original ones back in. They look pretty legit. And then we'll keep these as a spare. And this will do for now until my armor shield ceramic coat comes in. And once that comes in, we'll just ceramic coat everything. And then we won't have the UV rays breaking down my plastic for at least 3 years. Thanks for watching, boys. Peace.